Am I there?
Yeah, you're here. Hello, and welcome to Mind the Music, the podcast series where we sit down or stand or crouch and talk to musicians and mental health professionals about the intersection between being a musician and the myriad aspects of mental health, wellness, the state of our marbles, and multitudinous tangents thereof. Maybe it's quitting a band because of depression. Maybe it's discovering a knack for a musical instrument that we never believed possible, and it bolsters our confidence and drips and sloshes into other areas of our life, or we get ill before we go on stage. I'm your host, Trevor Lowell Clements. Today, we'll be talking about some of these kinds of issues, perhaps maybe touching on mental health and being on tour, because my guest today, who I'm joined with, is Jon Sloan, and Jon is one half of the musical duo Homestead Elite. Welcome, Jon. It's great to talk to you. Besides emails, you're here.
Nice.
All right.
Well, you got a fancy background. Is a car full of gear a good background?
It's I'm not sure what it's called. Yeah, it's like Northern Lights stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
How
well,
are
thanks
you?
for having me on the show here.
Thank you. I think I shouldn't be eating these. Well, I mean, I want to eat the chocolate bar, but if you know, when you try to eat something, when you get the earbuds in, you get these loud.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what? You're the
Yeah.
host. You do whatever you want.
You know what? I'm just gonna eat the chocolate bar. Be quiet for a second because it'll only take me 2 seconds. Take the earbud out, and then we'll get down to business.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby, the Mind the Music lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Try not to eat too much.
Sometimes you deserve a treat. All in the name of mental health, eh?
Sure.
Yeah. That's what I say. And yeah, I'm not sponsored by Hershey's or anything, but not sponsored by anybody, actually. I did have a sponsor once or twice, but that was another time. So I think we talked a bit about what the podcast, what the concept is, and you would have heard it in the intro there.
Mhm.
Do you have any questions kind of about, I mean, this is your episode 2, so I'm not by
Oh yeah.
any means an old hand or anything at this.
No, I think you've laid it out pretty clearly. And there's a lot of challenges that musicians face just by daring to create something, daring to be in front of an audience, daring to
Mm-hmm.
travel to do so,
Mm.
all of the above, right?
Yes. So I've not done any extensive, touring. I've gone to other provinces and whatnot to play. But for me, it's usually been a one-off gig. I go there,
Right.
I do a gig, maybe sleep at a friend's house and go home. So that that's not incredibly taxing. But now something I think I asked you in your email. I think I said, do you have a place to stay when you're on PEI? And you said, we've been sleeping in our car.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that, if you wake up and the sun is, shining and your car is, hot and sweaty, that it might not be the most pleasant way to wake up. And I can guess that if you did that for a prolonged period of time, it could create some challenges. What's it
You know
like?
what's funny about that? So I, I've I've learned to look at the compass before we park the car to
Okay.
try to be like, what direction is the sun going to come from, and where can I park to ensure that we're going to be in the shade in the morning.
Yes.
So I've cracked that code.
Yeah.
Um, Also, currently the time of year is pretty on our side for that.
Mm,
The nights are not that cold,
not super hot.
and the mornings are not that hot yet.
Mm.
But what we've been so we're in I'm in the car right now, obviously.
Yes.
We're touring around in a Honda CRV,
Okay.
and we got all the seats out of the back.
So you
Um,
got a mattress in there?
so I've got a few. I didn't want to do the air mattress thing
Yeah.
because here I'll show you quick. So
Sure,
we
sure.
got all the stuff back there, right? We're touring with a
Okay.
piano and a guitar. We brought the whole PA system just in case.
Yes.
Um, so then the question is, where do you sleep?
Yes.
We've moved all the stuff from the
To the
back
front seats?
into the front seats, and then we've got some cushiony mats, like more like foam mats,
Yeah,
two
yeah.
two thick sleeping bags on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And truthfully, it actually is pretty comfortable. It's long enough that I'm like 6 feet tall. I can stretch out.
Yes.
It's not that bad. Like I've had worse experiences in a
Yeah.
tent than in the
Yeah.
back of this car.
Yeah. My wife and I have done similar things. We drove to Montreal for the jazz festival,
Yeah,
and I didn't have a Honda. What did you say yours was? Was a
CRV.
CR, so it's an SUV. I didn't have an
Yeah,
SUV, but I had a Honda Fit, which was
it's a
a
hatchback.
it's a hatchback,
Yeah,
and I believe the reason they call them a Fit is because you can fit a lot of stuff in them. Like for a hatchback, they fit a lot of stuff.
yeah,
Like this, I think you can fit a 6 foot ladder in it or something. I think is, somebody told me if you put the front seat and the passenger seat
yeah,
down.
yeah, yeah.
So I'm glad to hear that you at least have, that you can stretch your feet out because I was having pictures because when you said, we sleep in the car, I was picturing like maybe
We're
okay, are
like
they are
in the
they
seats.
are they in a sedan and trying to get
Yeah.
comfortable and
Yeah,
in
we
in
take
bucket
turns at who
seats?
gets the back bench. Like, no,
Yes, yeah, yeah,
no, no, no.
yeah.
So it's not so bad. Like I've got friends who tour extensively, and like he's a songwriter. He lives when he's on the road, he lives in his van, like a Dodge
Hmm.
Caravan, but
Yes.
he's got a platform built in the back and a
Okay.
mattress on it. So
Okay. So the
he can
gear
fit
goes
stuff underneath.
under and
Yeah,
sleep on top.
exactly. So because like you know what I mean when you're doing any sort of touring DIY style and
Yes.
you're trying to find any gig that you can in
Hmm.
towns you've never been in and nobody knows who you are,
Yep.
it's not a very lucrative endeavor. So
You don't
anywhere
you
you can
you don't
save some
want to
money,
be you don't want to be charging like 4-star hotels to your credit card
you just
before the gig
can't.
because you don't know if you're gonna make
You just
five
can't do it,
dollars
right?
or
Even a motel, like I don't know, the cheapest motel you can find is over $100.
yes.
So like
Yeah.
I don't know, gas
Once
is
upon a
expensive enough.
time, once upon a time, you might have found one for 60, 70, or 80, but those days are pretty good. Even Airbnb, when that first came out, they were
Mhm.
significantly cheaper than hotels. But I find now that they're it's you don't really find like a $30 Airbnb anymore. You're
No, you
paying
don't.
very close to the hotel price.
They advertise at $50 to $70. It's
Yep.
a room in a
Yep.
shared house with a shared bathroom,
Yep.
so you really don't even get your own space.
Yep.
And then they charge you a big cleaning fee plus tax, so you're
Yep.
really looking well over $100 regardless. So you're
Yep.
better off to do a hotel if that's what
Yep.
you're doing.
Yep.
But
Unless you happen to, but then you're going to pay more to get. Some people will rent out an entire apartment, and
yep.
then, then maybe you have a place to cook food. So you can go to
Mhm.
the grocery store and buy something rather than eating out, which would be expensive if you have to eat out
Yeah.
all the time.
If you have time to cook is also the other thing.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I saw a band once a long, long time ago. I think they're from Montreal and I think they were called Humans, which I think is I think it was another language meant voice or something like that. And they were sort of like a gypsy jazz kind of band. And
Mhm.
I saw them like here in the Maritimes in New Brunswick, and they were touring, with like a little camper behind their truck. But yeah, if you don't have that, I guess it.
We were trying to find either a little camper or
Mhm.
a small covered trailer
Okay.
to put the stuff in. We
Yeah.
couldn't find the right one. All the
Yeah.
campers were like too big or too expensive.
Yeah.
Trailers, same story. They were way bigger than what we need.
Yeah.
Really, like a small motorcycle trailer could fit what we actually are bringing, except it's a
Yes.
little too short for the piano.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
instead, we bought a rooftop carrier.
Okay. So does the piano go up in the rooftop or
The
just
piano's in
for
the back. We've got the merch up top. We've got speakers, the cable case, mic stands. What else do I have up there? I forget. There's some stuff.
no kids
There's
up there or anything? No kids are
no,
pet.
no, not that I know
Here, little
of.
Johnny. We'll we'll
We might
we'll, we'll,
might have
we'll
got some
see you in 4 hours.
stowaways.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
Uh,
it's the interesting challenges of just trying to find a place to sleep where nobody's going to bother you,
yeah.
and also like close proximity to a bathroom,
Mm-hmm.
coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
So like truck stops have been very useful to us.
Yeah. I suppose if you're like halfway between cities, and then a lot of them have showers too, right? Which, you
Yeah,
know, uh, you cannot knock how life-changing a shower can be, right? Just to make you
absolutely.
feel, I feel human again, right?
Yep. No, we were a few days out from a shower. Like we were in this beautiful village in Quebec called Wakefield,
Okay.
and we had a swim in the Gatineau River,
Nice.
which was incredibly cold, but super refreshing.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, you know
that
what they
brought us back
say.
to life.
You know what they say about that here in PEI. I
What did I
don't
say?
know. I don't know if this kind of saying uh, uh, exists out in Ontario, but when you go to the beach here and you get in and it's cold, we say it's warm once you get in.
Sure, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
just
not,
like that.
yeah, yeah, it's not a PEIism or whatever. Yeah. Because
But
sometimes I get in and I'm like, you lied to me. It's still
oh
cold.
yeah, yeah, no, it is. I was Celsius. I'd call that single digits. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
fresh.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so we drove all the way from Wakefield. We ended up in a town called Edmundston in New Brunswick.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
like
I've been there.
just
Yeah.
past the border.
Yeah. One of my former
Uh,
bass players, I believe, lives in Edmundston or used to, or
oh yeah,
Campbellton, one of them. Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, truck stop shower yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh, what a
Oh,
great time.
awesome. So I have a question about the Gatineau River dip.
Yeah,
So was this a leisure activity or was this in lieu of a shower?
both.
Both. Okay. Yes. It's
I
all it's
wanted to
always good if you can multitask in that way, I guess.
whenever I find a body of water,
Yep.
I try to find an opportunity to get into it.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how I am. And
Yes.
I wanted to get into the river anyway, but
Yes.
then also didn't really have a chance to shower.
Hmm.
There was like a climbing gym in town where we were like trying to sweet talk them, but
Yeah, yeah.
um
Yeah. We go in there and say like I wonder, did you try saying can I just have a trial membership and to test it out to see if I like the gym?
so what ended up happening, we called them
Hmm.
and somebody answered and they were like, you know what, let me talk to the owner or whatever
Hmm.
and I'll call you back. They
Yes.
didn't call us back. So we said, you know what? Let's just go down there, say hi, try our
Yeah.
case again in
Yeah.
person. We might get an
Yeah.
answer, right?
Yeah. Smile, be
And
friendly, and
yeah, and then we locked the keys in the car.
oh my God.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
yeah. So that took a couple hours
Yes.
to get somebody to show up and
Yeah.
open the car.
Now,
And
did
by
you
that,
have a
yeah,
sorry, did you have a gig that night? Where you like was there this
no,
panic like shit, I'm gonna miss the
no,
gig?
no. So we had already finished our run of gigs for the last weekend, and we
Yes.
had already planned to stay in Wakefield for at least a day or two,
Yes.
because it was a beautiful town and we didn't really have any rush to leave.
Okay. Okay. So how long have you been into your tour? Like when did it start? You've been on the road for how long?
So we left home on Wednesday.
Okay, last
Uh,
Wednesday.
so yeah, today is Wednesday, right? So
That's
a week ago. We've been on the
that's
road for a
seven
week.
days.
Yeah,
7 days of nomadic musical
yeah,
adventures, right?
yeah. You got it. You got it.
Awesome, awesome. Now, uh, have you done a tour like this before, or is this um, your first sort of attempt and experience at this? And um, either way, if so, if it's your first tour, what kind of things have you learned that you might not have thought about beforehand regarding, perhaps, you know, keeping the mental health in check? And if it's maybe if you're a seasoned touring veteran, you know, what did you learn before that you didn't do this time, and how has that perhaps changed your mental, your kind of emotional experience of this.
So as a band, as a duo, we did a tour up to Thunder Bay from
Okay.
Ontario.
Okay.
Well, it's still in Ontario, but
Yeah. I
from
know
where
it's far.
we live in the Oshawa area.
Yep.
Thunder Bay is about as far as Moncton
I
from
did
where we
my
are.
I did my education degree in Thunder Bay, so I
It's in the
know
middle
that
of
it's
nowhere.
like you're almost to Winnipeg. Like
Yeah,
you've
yeah.
gone
It's
almost as far as you can go at Ontario without not being Ontario anymore.
yeah, you got it. You got it.
And
So
Ontario is
we did that
ridiculously
trip.
big.
It's huge. And you know what? It goes way further north than that too. And there's a million
Yep,
lakes and it's beautiful and all that.
exactly.
But yeah, so we did that. We did there were some marathon drives on that trip. There's a lot less
Mm,
in between.
yep,
Like we drove from Sudbury to Thunder Bay in one shot.
yep.
We left at 7 in the morning, showed up at 8:30 p.m., had a gig at 9.
Okay, wow.
So trying to avoid scheduling things like that
Yes.
is an
I
important lesson.
I was looking at your because you gave me the poster, right? Because
Yeah,
I mean, we got connected because you reached out to me and you were looking for
mhm,
another, a local performer to
100%.
join your gig. So, you've sent me a poster, which has,
Has all the dates on it.
all like
Yep.
all of your dates, at least
Hmm.
all of the ones that you had when you made the poster. Maybe you've,
Yep.
been able to add some more, and then on the very bottom, it sort of in bigger letters, it has our gig. And when I was
Yeah.
looking at it, I mean, I was noticing that, there's a little bit of you going to Moncton and then driving back to Edmundston type of thing, or was it
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Edmundston? Then, you're in Moncton, which is about 30 minutes from Shediac, but I think you're in Moncton, then you're in PEI, and then you're in Shediac. So,
Yeah, you know what it is? It's you I sent a lot of emails and made a lot of phone calls,
yes, yep,
tried to line up as much as possible.
yeah,
I fell a little short of the number of gigs that I wanted to book.
okay,
Um, but the truth is, when somebody said, "We will have you on this date,"
yeah.
as long as it was possible to make it happen, I said yes.
A bird in the bush, right? Right.
And if I didn't treat it like that, I probably wouldn't have been able to book as many.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, there's a lot of back and forth this weekend. We're from Moncton. I had something fall through in Clark's Corner, New Brunswick on
Okay.
Friday.
Okay.
So that would have been like 2 hours ish. Then we're going to Grand Falls.
Well, and
Then we're going from
that's
all the
almost
way
on the
back.
border of Quebec, right?
I know.
Yeah.
And then from Grand Falls, we're heading back east to Salisbury, which is
Yeah.
basically Moncton. So we're
Yes,
basically
exactly.
driving around the entire province of New Brunswick almost.
Yes. Have you
this
been to
weekend.
New Brunswick before? Can you at
I've
least
not.
say, hey, we're sightseeing?
Yes. So that's part of this too. It's I've always wanted to travel through the east coast of Canada,
Mhm.
and I've been in so many bands over the years where
Yes.
it almost happened,
Yeah.
but didn't for a variety of reasons. And
Yeah.
this time I just decided I'm going to do it myself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I bringing my partner with me, but like I
Yes.
just got on the phone, started calling a bunch of places, got recommendations from people I know who have either
Yep.
toured through here or
Yep.
live here now, and just tried to get as many as possible.
Yeah. And I would guess that, if you decide to do it again, the connections you will make this time theoretically should make the next time, a little bit, a little bit easier,
That's definitely the goal. It's like
because
you're investing in the brand and putting time
yeah,
and resources into it,
yeah,
um, hoping that yes, you will meet people, you
yes.
will make an impact in these towns, so that when people might hear that you're coming back again, not only will they come again, but they'll
Hmm.
bring friends.
Yeah. And
Right?
it's tricky, isn't it? As a
It is.
like, because I think you guys are doing original music, right? Is that
We're
or
trying
mix
to
or
play. It's a mix. It's a
okay?
mix. I mean, we've got, for the shows where we're just doing one set,
Yep.
we're focusing mainly on originals, and we'll throw in
Yep.
a few covers of interest.
Yep.
But we've got like 3 hour gigs, 4 hour gigs on this tour. Nobody wants
Hmm.
to hear 4 hours of original music, and
Hmm.
we don't have that much original music ready to go right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a mix. It's
Yeah.
totally a mix.
Yeah. Um, in terms of, I guess, because this podcast is about, musicians and mental health, what aspect of either the touring or even just being a musician in general have been the most challenging for you? And you also mentioned your partner. She wasn't so keen on maybe coming on and spilling her guts to a stranger. But does it seem like you have the same kind of things that, or is it so far just all felt like kind of swell, not been long enough?
um, so I mean, I've done several trips like this.
Yeah.
Um, and like I got hired by a band to tour across America like
Okay.
almost 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
So like I'm no stranger to doing this.
Mm-hmm.
She's a little newer to it than I am.
Okay.
So like for me, I never get any sort of performance anxiety. I know
Yeah.
that's a common one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I'm not I'm never worried about that. Like
Yeah.
I just show up and do my thing, and
Yeah.
do my best to win people over.
Mm.
Um, she doesn't often feel anxious either. I think it's only when she feels unprepared. So
Yes.
that's definitely a real one. Getting a good rest is a challenge sometimes.
Mm.
We're driving late through the night to try to get to places, and you're like sleeping during the day, and like
Yeah.
sleep cycle's a little wonky. And we invested in a lot of stuff to make this possible, right?
Yep.
We did a big run of merch that
Yep.
came out of our own pocket.
Yep.
We had to buy the rooftop carrier, we had to buy the roof
Mm.
racks, um, not to mention the expensive gas. It's an expensive
Mhm.
endeavor,
Yep.
and it's a little, certainly for me, financially stressful because
Yep.
we haven't seen the return on that yet.
Mm. And like I guess like are you and your partner, are you full-time musicians, or do you have other jobs? 'Cause, if you have other jobs, it also means that you're taking time off work and you're not
Right.
getting paid during that time, right? So that can be tricky, right?
Yeah. So I'm a full-time musician.
Yep.
Um, like as a performer, um, I have a trio that I play upright bass in. I
Okay.
have this duo where I sing and play guitar. And I also get hired as a sideman for a variety of things as a
Okay.
performer.
Yep.
I'm also a recording engineer.
Okay.
So I work in the studio producing, recording, mixing
Hmm.
for songwriters for bands, So even still being a full-time musician, taking a month off of the rest of my life to focus on this,
Yes.
definitely losing money.
And yeah, I mean, if you have a lot of, local gigs,
Yes.
like if you can walk down the street to that
Mhm.
gig and you've got sort of the established, like maybe you've built up, a relationship and you've gotten to the point where you've, built yourself a bit of a following, and then the
Mhm.
bars maybe, because they got to make they're a business, right? They
Of
can't
course.
necessarily just offer everybody, "Oh, I'll give you $1,000 and I don't know if
They're
anybody will
hiring
come,"
us
right?
so people will come and stay, right?
So, but if you're usually doing the stuff locally, maybe you've got a certain amount of gigs without as much expense, right? So maybe you're doing the same amount of gigs here, but like you say, you've got gas and you're also an unknown, commodity, right? Like
Yes.
unless you're somebody that's like a big name that, everybody's going to flock to. Um, what's that experience like? I mean, have you played any, gigs where like, only two people showed up and
Mhm.
and how does that get disheartening, or is it
And
just
that
sort of,
it's
I'm
tough.
just going to have fun anyways? Because I think a lot of it's attitude, right? Like,
It is attitude. You got to like not take it personally, and just like always give it 100%.
yep,
Like don't hold back. Don't get
yeah,
discouraged.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, it's definitely financially difficult when
yeah,
you're relying on basically people's generosity and tips,
yep,
and it doesn't come back. You know what I mean?
yes,
Like
exactly,
you're playing a place, and the decision is don't put a cover at the door because
yep,
then nobody will come.
yep,
Get them in the door first,
yep,
pass around a bucket, and the
yep,
bucket's getting passed around, and you just hear the change,
yeah,
clink,
yeah.
clink, clink.
Yeah. Well, I will say, because I made my living for about 3 or 4 years as a street musician, like as a busker. I had like kind of a homemade drum kit, so it had a gimmick, right? So,
Sure.
um, and one thing I will say, as far as the change goes, since they introduced the Looney and Toonie, it makes it a little bit better, right?
Yes.
Because you could actually get, a $2 tip, whereas before that, if somebody's change was quarters, and I think you like, do you think that, being able to do this kind of thing where it is, a little precarious financially, um, how much of it is, um, how much of it is, I guess, problem solving and, just trying to be smart, uh, you know, uh, 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 like smart about things. I used to, every time I bust, I would always start and put two toonies and a loony of my own money in there,
Hmm.
right? Because
Oh, you
that,
gotta start with the bills.
or bill, well, I would put some bills too if I had it. But the idea was because, long before I bust, my cousin used to busk. And I remember one time I'd said, like, oh, I don't have anything. I got a bunch of pennies. And he said, don't put any pennies in there, because he said pennies attract pennies. Like,
Yes.
you need to put it in people's mind, when they see it, if they see loonies and toonies and, fives, then they might be,
Mhm.
oh, that's what people are giving. So I always
Yes.
sort of primed it,
You have to.
so to speak. And maybe in touring, maybe there are other kinds of, problem solving things that you might do.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be there's a knack to doing the pass the hat nights.
Yep.
Um, you got to talk to everybody. You
Yep.
got to be nice about it.
Yep.
If they say no, you have to not be a jerk.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think, I said it, like, but, and you agreed. You said, like, attitude is everything,
Yes. And
right?
I think the
Like,
attitude you have on stage
yep.
can really influence how people are going to treat you when it comes
Yep.
to money. All right. And I
Yep.
mean, it's, and the thing with music is, I mean, the people who are in it for the love of it
Yeah.
would happily not care about money if they didn't have
Yep.
to.
Yeah, that's
But that's
true.
not what it's about.
No,
If we wanted to
exactly.
make a lot of money, we would have gotten real jobs, right?
For sure, right?
So it's not really what it's about,
Yeah.
but also life costs money,
Exactly.
right? I
Exactly.
can't drive to the next town without paying for gas in the tank,
Yeah.
right?
And sometimes it's a catch 22. Like you said that you're a full-time full-time musician.
Mhm.
Um, Other than busking, I've only had one real experience with that, and it was a summer that I did, dinner theater, so it was
Oh
like
yeah, yeah.
we did 3 shows. And so, we rehearsed the first show for 2 weeks, and then we were doing shows at night and rehearsing the second show during the daytime, you
Sure.
know, and, I come to the conclusion that, if you're playing all the time, you're getting more practice. Because I think
Definitely.
I mean, I wasn't old then, but when I was, like 19, well, like when I first started playing, I kind of had this attitude about music, like, I'm not going to do any covers or do any of this because it's not artistically, I had like this attitude, that it all had to be this, high art,
Sure.
but then later, uh, I kind of looked at it differently and I said, okay, maybe I'm doing dinner theater and some of the songs are kind of hokey, but I'm getting paid to practice 8 hours a
Mhm.
day.
Yep.
And then, we play. And I think because it was dinner theater, I think we got to, eat a free meal out of it,
Bonus.
whereas the option would be like, well, I could also flip burgers for a minimum wage. Which one is better, right? Because even
Hmm.
the music that isn't, it's not the stuff that I'm going to do backflips over. I'm still learning, like I'm still improving, and I
You
can
absolutely
apply
learn from
that.
doing a gig like that.
Yeah, I can apply that to other, other parts of forms of music. And
It makes you a better musician, right?
yeah,
You it
exactly.
it it forces you to play a part and
Yep.
do it consistently and do it right
Yeah.
every day,
Yeah.
right? Like I've done a few productions of theater
Yeah.
where being in the pit band, you're running the show like
Yeah.
five to five times at least a week.
Yep. Yep.
And you know
That's
what I
what we
mean?
were
And it's
doing.
like
Yeah.
you gotta hit it
Yeah.
every time.
Yeah.
There's no room for error. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like I did the Queen show, We Will Rock You,
Yeah.
right? So not only did I have to learn like 30 Queen songs in 2 weeks.
You weren't trying to sing Freddie Mercury. You didn't have to do that, did you?
No, no, we just did the music. The cast was singing. Thank
Yeah.
God, because I can't
They
hit
had
that.
some because that guy's vocal range is like insane.
Unbelievable. Yeah,
You
no,
know?
of course I didn't have to do that. But the bass player, John Deacon,
Yeah.
he's got some stuff, man.
Oh
Like
yeah.
there is some I didn't realize until I was in it. I'm like, okay, I've got to work on this.
It's so often the way, eh? With some music that, when you're just casually listening to it, sometimes it sounds simpler uh than it is. Like,
Yes.
because I did, like you said, you did the Freddie Mercury. I did a show when I was doing dinner theater. It was Beatlemania, and you think
Oh
of the
yeah.
Beatles as very, very simple, but
Not always.
sometimes there's some stuff in there that I feel like bands like the Beatles and like Steely Dan is another one.
Yep.
With them, they slide jazz in there, but they do it so artfully that somebody who's not really into jazz wouldn't notice it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like so it's more complicated than maybe a non-musician might think. But like for me, if I listen to Steely Dan, like that Asia album, I mean that's Steve Gadd on drums, like you know, and a lot of stuff he's just in the pocket and he grooves. But I mean, there are parts where he does this, drum fill, like not really solo because the other music is happening, but like, I ain't gonna nail that,
Tough. And I mean,
you know.
Steve Gadd is like one of the greatest drummers of all time,
That's
right?
what I'm saying, right? But it's not. how can I say it's not like, say a progressive rock thing where, maybe the goal is to make it obvious how hard it is. It's, when
Mm,
something tricky is in there, it it blends in. It
yeah,
goes under the radar. It might have been tricky, but it was because it worked. It wasn't tricky, for the sake, and I'm not putting down progressive, like I like prog rock too, but sometimes it's sort of like it's almost like a uh I think that's what appeals to them, like can I, can I make a challenge for myself? Can I make something very
yeah.
challenging?
And there's nothing wrong with that, but I do feel like there's some musicians who like to overcomplicate things just for the sake of it.
Yes.
Where I think, from the listener's point of view,
Yeah.
something simple and catchy that makes them feel something
Yeah.
usually goes a long way.
Yeah. 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 I think it's about balance. And again, it depends on, the genre and stuff to a certain extent.
Of course, of course.
Um, but I've heard, fairly like if you listen to Rush, it's very intricate and complicated, but it never really sounds like they were like, let's try to show, you know what I mean? It still sounds like a cohesive song, and
Hmm.
then some other bands, I won't name any because I don't want to slag them, but like I kind of felt like sometimes like, oh, that's cool. I like that groove, and then like 10 seconds later it's gone, and I kind of thought like for my
Yeah,
my
yeah,
own personal taste, I might have liked it if they did that for, 40 seconds or a minute and
yep,
had like, four complicated parts instead of 18.
yep, yep. And then find better transitions between them so it's not
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
disjointed.
Having said that, there are certain people that um enjoy that, right? So I don't think there's any right or wrong, but
Hmm. No, you know what it is. There's musicians who like, you got to ask who it's for, right?
yes.
It's like,
Yep.
is it for me
Mm-hmm.
or is it for the audience?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think sometimes the musicians can be self-serving
Mm-hmm.
and try to play very complicated things just to amuse themselves, or
Yeah.
maybe to like just feel accomplished that they can do it.
Yes. Yeah.
uh but then to me, I've always found it more valuable to like get outside of myself and try to think of what does this room need from me right now, and how can
Mm.
I give it to them so that we all have an experience together.
There we
There it
go.
is.
Awesome. Okay, that's a good trick. Like we said, sometimes it's about problem solving. Uh, that is new.
Make it work.
That's the first time that the free Zoom has made me wait 9 minutes. In the past, it was just
Oh yeah, yeah.
a little bit of a small inconvenience where I just say, okay, be right back in there. But I guess they're
That's
trying to make it more
yeah.
inconvenient to be a cheapskate.
That's why I use Google Meet. They don't give you a time limit.
Okay, I might have to check to look into that and see if there's just figure. I'll just have to figure it out how to record sometime when I don't have when I'm not in the middle of it. But
I don't
so
know if they have the sweet Northern Lights background, but they do have a beach.
do they? Yeah. Well, PEI is basically a big beach, so
True.
it
That's what I
it, it,
hear.
it, it would fit the thing. So, anyways, you said you probably got about 10 minutes left. So
Yeah, I figure that's probably enough time. I know we got to get a bite to eat, and
yeah.
things close early here.
Yes. Yes. So, where are you right now?
It's currently in Fredericton, looking out at this river.
Okay, okay. I have some friends in Fredericton, and are you playing there tonight or?
We're not playing in Fredericton tonight. This is a pit stop. I don't know if we're gonna keep driving and land in Moncton tonight, or if we're just gonna go tomorrow. Haven't decided yet.
Okay, I could reach out to a friend in Fredericton. Who knows? Maybe you'd get a basement or something, or a place
Oh, yeah.
to chill out or
Yeah, I
something. But
mean,
I guess you got the bed in your car, so it's not so bad.
it could be worse. Could be
Yeah,
worse.
yeah, yeah. I was just thinking while you know while we were booted out of Zoom there for a minute. How much I guess when you're touring or even just as a musician, especially, in your case, when you do it full time, how much does the relationship with other musicians, other bands, come into play? Because I mean, I think we've both been doing it for a long time, and some bands like to help each other out. Some bands like to, try to get to the top by being competitive.
Right. So in my experience, most people realize as musicians, we're all on the same team.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not fighting each other.
Yeah.
There's plenty of opportunities for everybody, and by building each other up,
Hmm.
we all win.
Yes.
Right. So, and it's like by setting a higher standard for what our worth is,
Hmm.
we help each other. So, like, whenever I hear of somebody who's like maybe newer, less experienced, and they're talking about like taking a super low paying gig because they're not confident, I'm
Yeah.
like, don't do it.
Yeah.
You're undervaluing what I do
Yeah. Yeah.
by taking that gig.
Yeah. Yeah.
Believe in yourself. And if you
Yeah.
don't think you're good enough, practice.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, stuff like that. And I mean, uh, I've had a lot more experiences of people being willing to help me
Yeah.
than people who have tried to, step on my face as they climb the ladder, right?
Mm.
I don't experience a lot of that, which is
Mhm.
good because, again, musicians who are in it for the right reasons are in it because they love what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
And if you love what you're doing, you're pretty much automatically friends with people who share that same mindset because
Yeah.
of the common interest, right?
I have definitely found that that I become friends, like the path to like a friendship, uh, becoming a more deeper friendship is extremely uh, sped up when it's with other musicians,
Yeah.
especially if we're in the same, in the same band, where you might meet somebody and it's not through music. You still might become friends, but I find it's really it really comes faster, and I guess it's like what you said. It's the common. You're like, this
Yep.
person's from my tribe, right?
Yep. And on the note of like friends, like non-musician friends, it's hard to maintain that relationship
Hmm.
because um literally the schedule of most people's lives is opposite of a
Yep.
working musician.
Yeah.
I get hired to play when most people have time off to come listen,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's not just me, it's me as a musician and every other musician.
Yeah.
It's entertainment, right? It's
Yeah.
everybody else's downtime.
Yeah.
So it's almost impossible to maintain a friendship with somebody
Hmm.
who has a normal work cycle.
Hmm.
Like a weekend is when I work, not when
Yeah.
the week is over and I have time off.
Yeah.
So, people will only invite you to so many things and hear no so many times before they just stop asking.
Yep. And then do you ever find the flip side that, inviting friends to come? Like, do you ever feel like I don't want to feel like I'm, you know, bothering them, right? But like, I mean, you have to put it out there. But I would guess like once you get
Yeah.
more of a following, then you're not like begging your friends and family, to come as much.
I've found that the people who want to come will.
Yep.
So I don't often ask and I never beg.
Yeah.
I've found that people who, maybe I was close friends with a while ago
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I run into them again for a while, they're like, oh, yeah, when are you playing? And I'm like, oh, yeah, so I'll be here, I'll be here, I'll be here,
Yeah.
I'll be here, I'll be here. Be great to see you. And they're like, cool, thanks. I'll try to
Yeah.
make it out. I never
Yeah.
see them.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I
And
mean?
then I mean, of
Whereas,
course, you send the Facebook event out, right? But you're not calling them up and say, "Come on, man, you got to be there," right? Because it's like, they have lives and
it's
and
not
their purpose in
fair.
life isn't to support you, right?
It's not fair to expect, like,
Exactly.
I perform in my local area with various acts
Yep.
2 to 3 times every week.
Yeah.
I can't expect everybody I know to show up to every one.
Of course. Of
It's
course.
not reasonable to do so.
Yeah.
So I don't have that expectation, and I've
Yeah.
long since tried begging my friends to
Yeah.
come out to see me play. Because again, if they want to, they will.
Yeah.
And the people I have lots of friends who show up regularly when I'm playing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't ask them. I just kind of,
Yeah.
it's all on the internet these days, right? So
Yeah.
I try my best to um, share and let people know in advance where I'll be and what's going
Yep.
on. And people often show up.
Yep. Yep. Um, just changing gears because I'm aware that we don't have a whole lot of time. Seeing it is, it's dealing with like music and mental health, right?
Yeah.
Um, only share what you're, comfortable sharing. But have there been, points in your journey as a musician where you really have hit, hit the wall and been, have like, really difficult mental health issues? Or have there been times where music has, brought you out of that type of thing?
So for the most part, I look at most of the jobs that normal people have, and
Hmm.
to me, that seems like a waste of time.
Yeah.
Um, I I can't really see any other way of living my life than
Mhm.
playing music.
Yeah.
But there's certainly been times where I've become disillusioned by it and like,
Mm.
I used to enjoy listening to music all the time. Now I never do because I'm playing all the time or I'm
Mm.
in the studio listening. When I drive home, I just want silence, stuff like that. It's like, do I even
Mm.
like music anymore?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's also just with any sort of freelance work in a gig economy, there's times when money's flowing and there's times where it's not.
Mm.
And in the times where it's not, you really question like, oh, should I have made this decision to do this with my
Mm.
life?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or should I have gotten something more steady and kept music as a passion project on the side?
Yeah.
Because there's two ways people can go about it. And when it comes to music, if you're serious,
Yeah.
one is working musician. You are trying to make music your job, and you will find any angle you can
Yep.
to
Hmm.
do so.
Yeah.
The other angle is where you have a day job,
Yeah.
you're comfortable,
Yep.
and your music is your passion project, your creative outlet.
Yeah.
You don't have to play the covers because you don't necessarily care if you get paid.
That's
You
sort
can,
of where I am right now.
right?
I mean, of course, I'm unemployed because I just recently, finished, doing the master's to be a counselor. So I'm still looking for that job. But when I did the practicum and intern, like I really loved it, and so I feel that, when I do get a job, I'll have a stable income.
Yes.
And because the the one that I did is it will be in the school system. So that also means I would have the summers, to
Hmm.
sort of, follow this. And
Yeah.
I do
Do the
like
whole
that
festival
not having
season.
not having the pressure. I can just go because I mean what I do, the poetry and music, it's not so mainstream, but I can do something that I feel I enjoy and not really have to worry too much about,
Yes.
whether I get a big crowd or not.
And there's not anything wrong.
Yeah.
There's nothing better or worse about
Yep.
either side of this.
Yep.
It's just a decision to make.
Yep.
And for me, I can't imagine doing anything else that would actually make me feel satisfied.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then it's a constant goal, constant work to try
Yeah.
to fill the calendar with dates. Like,
Yeah. But you've
you know, I,
diversified, right? Like you said, you do
yes,
audio production. So you've sort of
yes,
diversified like within music, right? So it's not like playing a
yes,
gig is the only, you could, try to get songs in TV. You could do I mean, there's a lot of ways to make money at music that isn't just,
performing.
being a rock star on stage.
Yeah. A lot of people don't think about that either.
Yeah.
So, um, I would love to crack the code for getting songs placed in shows and movies and stuff. Haven't
Mm.
done that yet, but
Yeah.
one day. But
Yeah.
so not only have I learned how to be versatile as a musician. You know, I'll play in R&B bands, I'll play in rock
Yeah.
bands, I'll play in country bands,
Yeah.
play electric bass and stand-up bass as a session player.
Mm.
A wide variety of stuff happens in the studio, whether I'm behind the desk or playing on the song or both.
Mm.
I'm heavily involved in that. I also do live sound, so there's a lot of stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? It's not just one thing.
Yeah.
But you know, like I've been doing this full time for almost 10 years now.
Yeah.
And you know, that back to the whole disillusionment, when you're starting, you're like, oh, I'm gonna be in this cool band, we're gonna
Yeah.
hit it big, and then
Yeah.
boom, success.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. 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 You have, like you said, you have to love the process of it
Yeah.
because there's no guarantee. Um, you know, there are some amazing, tremendous musicians, you know, that are plenty talented, nice people, but it just doesn't break,
Yeah.
you know? And then there
100%.
are some people that are, you know, in terms of, I guess, musicianship, might not be, you know, might not, I mean, they might not be virtuosos, you know, the song is okay, but it, you know, whether it hits at the right time or whether they're very good with the, you know, with the promoting and business aspect of it. I mean,
That's
there's no
usually what it is. It's
guarantee.
it's marketing. The
Yeah,
musicians who are successful
yeah,
have been very good at branding themselves
yeah,
and marketing themselves and getting it out there,
yeah, yeah.
is the truth.
So speaking of the marketing,
Yeah.
um, why don't you? I think I mentioned it at first, but what's your little blurb? What's Homestead Elite? What do you
Hmm.
guys do? Where can people that watch this podcast find you? Plug gigs, all that kind of stuff.
So we're currently passing through the East Coast. We've got a few in New Brunswick. We got the one in PEI that you've been kind enough to join us on.
Hmm.
Got a couple in Nova Scotia before we head back to Ontario.
Hmm.
Um, we love playing anywhere and everywhere. Well, we love squeezing into little corners. Love playing backyards. We love
Yeah,
playing barns. We'll play
yeah.
absolutely anywhere for anybody. I like to describe our original music as like folk steeped in jazz.
Okay, nice.
There's a strong like you know country Americana blues influence which folk music often is tied into. But
Hmm.
I also, as much as I'm not writing jazz songs,
Hmm.
I have a love for jazz. You know,
Mm.
I play in a big band. I've
Hmm.
played in jazz combos. It's kind of just a part of me, and I feel like it naturally comes out in
Yeah,
some of the songs that I write.
yeah. Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
But as a
that's awesome.
duo, there's acoustic guitar, piano. Um, I sing most of the lead vocals, and my partner Jennine does lovely harmonies
Okay.
wherever we can squeeze it. Um, yeah, we try to like when we're doing covers, we try to play like songs that you forgot you loved, you know.
Yes.
And when
Yeah.
we're playing originals, we're trying to like uplift you, but also like give you something to think about,
Mm.
you
Yeah.
know.
Because
And
there's
also,
different people consume music in different ways. Some
yes,
people want, uh, you know, like something very heady. They want something they
mhm,
can, you know, really think about. And some people, you know, just want to bop their head, right? And both are okay, but it seems like you're trying to find like, can I appeal to, you know, a wider, a wider type of, you know, people, so that I can maybe get both of those kinds of.
yeah, I feel like to me the energy and the vibe of a song is more important than any sort of technical
Yeah,
aspect of it. You
yeah,
know, the message should be good, the vibe should be good.
mm,
Nothing needs to be too complicated.
yeah,
Sometimes it helps if it is,
yeah,
but I'm not the greatest guitar player in the world. You know, when I play the bass, I just try to give the song what it needs.
yeah,
That's kind of my method when it
yeah,
comes to music. I don't want to do too much.
Yeah.
Just, get the point across,
And have you found, like I found that, if I intentionally try to do something, complicated, it's probably gonna sound like crap. But sometimes when you're just in the moment and everything's flowing, stuff comes out of me that I'm like,
Definitely.
I won't be able to do that tomorrow. I can't recreate that. It's just I happen to be in that
Hmm.
zone, and I think really, really, good professional musicians on the top of their game can probably get that more often than I can. And, you take somebody like if I have like one of those really, really good nights and then I have a mediocre night, I think like you take somebody like, Carlos Santana, he's still going to have his really good nights and his mediocre night, but it'll be much harder for somebody to recognize, oh, that's
Yeah,
his mediocre, because his
for sure.
mediocre is only a fraction below maybe
For
his
sure.
really good.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just got to give it your all. And, this is a relatively new project. We've
Yeah.
been going for, I don't know, a year or two at the most. And, we're just gearing up to release our first single.
Yeah.
I got the master back last night. So
Oh, awesome.
I got to sit down and register it with SoCan and
Okay.
then get it uploaded to Bandcamp and Spotify. It'll
Yeah.
be a little bit till it's on Spotify, but maybe by the time this podcast drops, it will be there. But
Yeah.
yeah, the
Well,
band's Homestead Elite, as you said.
when you like once it's ready to go,
Yep,
send it my way, and I might be able, I might be able to stick it in in here, right? So people can hear that.
sure.
Uh
I can
um
send you the recording right now. It'll be a bit till it's up uh, for
well, yeah,
public
you probably
consumption.
don't want me putting it up there until it's right,
Yeah, I'll send
until you've
you.
got it at least registered with SoCan, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
well, that'll happen today, and then yeah, one thing at a time here.
okay,
But
do that. And
I'm
I'm
gonna
thinking,
it'll be up on Bandcamp, and
okay,
Bandcamp lets you share it immediately, whereas there's a delay for it to land on Spotify.
okay. Well, okay,
It
that's
takes
good.
processing time,
Okay, and
usually
even
just a couple
you
days.
can just email it to me, and then I can put
Yeah.
it I'll probably make this in two parts. Like the
Hmm.
first episode I did, it was really long, and I was up like all night with no sleep because I planned too many things at the same time,
Sure.
and I was doing like a live launch of the podcast. So
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
up
yeah.
all night editing the video. But my thought was to make it in two parts. So one part can have, the songs. So if it's demonetized,
Hmm.
the other part could be monetized. So that's sort of how I'm kind of thinking. So I could, maybe put a little teaser out with the song.
Sure.
Here's such and such a person. This is their song, and we're going to be talking to them
Hmm.
shortly or something. Or maybe it's the other way again. Maybe it's a talking to them and they're thinking, wow, this person seems really interesting. Now I want to listen to their music.
Hmm.
I haven't decided which one's best, and maybe there's a middle ground there. Maybe it's like a three-parter. And
Oh yeah. Well, I'm sure you'll figure it
yeah,
out.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, thanks so much for having me on here. It's been
It
been
was
great
great. It was
chatting with
great.
you.
It was great, and I hope this gets out to a few more people, and that it
Yeah, me
brings a
too.
few more people out to your shows, and like I said, you and your partner are welcome to welcome to stay here while you're here, because I always like to try to help other people out, because I know that you put good stuff out in the world, good stuff comes back.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Well, I'll definitely be in touch when we're a little closer geographically.
Awesome, awesome. So, do you want to run through the dates and the cities that you're in? I know I have the
Oh
poster somewheres,
shit.
or I could I might be able to edit it. Just
I honestly might not remember all of them.
okay. Oh wait, now I do have the poster on my. Okay, I'll just edit it in, and at the
Sure.
end, so anybody listening here, I will put this in. maybe I'll put it near the beginning of the podcast and show it a few
Sure.
times or something, depending on how much editing I want to put it in. I'll get it in there. Thanks very much
Hey, thanks for having me.
for joining me. We talked about plugging the show. I'll do that for you. So again, thanks to Jon Sloan from Homestead Elite. We talked a little bit about um, how to maintain mental health and while you're on tour, the types of things that might trip you up, um, all of that type of stuff. Is there any significance? The last thing I'll ask, is there any significance to the name Homestead Elite? How did you come up with it?
So that's actually an intersection in Oshawa where we're from. It's
Ah,
one of the streets is Homestead, the other is Elite. It's not a major intersection by any means, but yeah, my partner found that name. She was taking a walk, took a break, looked up at the street sign intersect, and went, "That's a band."
there it is. Oh,
And
that
then
that's
that was like
awesome.
15 years ago, and she held it in her head
Oh, like
that
so
long.
so it was like something that's been in there,
Yeah,
just saying that would make a good band name or something
yeah,
someday, and now she finally used it.
you got it.
That is awesome because I was thinking of like people like homesteaders. Oh, maybe they're trying to do things self-sufficiently, and it's like that's an elite lifestyle. But of
No,
course, I read way more
it's
into it.
it's amazing because like a lot of people do read into it in
Yeah,
a really awesome ways. So
yeah.
yeah, it's probably a sign of a good name, I guess, if it makes people think.
I think so. I think so, and I think it's good to let people. I don't remember what artist I was watching. And they were saying that people ask him what's this song about, and he said I don't want to tell people because people come up with their own stories, and
Hmm.
that's right for them.
Yes.
So that's kind of the that it can be a two-way thing. It's not.
Hmm.
It doesn't always have to be just passive on the listener. They can sort of they have their things that a song means to them, and then it's kind of maybe more personal for them.
Yeah, for sure.
Excellent,
I
excellent.
guess my
Okay.
video went away for a second there.
Oh yeah, I saw
All
there was a
righty.
nice horse. There was a nice horse there. I'll let you go.
All
Safe
right, man.
driving
Thank you so
with
much.
you and your partner. And
Thanks.
I hope you're still like happy partners by the time you get here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
So
we'll see you.
having to
We'll
smell each
find
other's
out.
feet and everything or
We'll
whatever.
find out. All right, man. Thanks so much. We'll see you
Okay.
soon.
All right. We'll talk to you. Bye
All
bye.
right.